liquids.
Yes.
Okay. You're in charge of all of that. Ooh, I think it's kind of pouring now. Hi.
Hello, good evening. I didn't get I just saw the emails. I didn't get a chance to look at what Sean may have edited, but
Yeah. Oh, it was just nothing,
Minor.
nothing, you
Okay.
know, nothing of consequence. So,
okay.
so
All right.
yeah.
I tried to eat my dinner early enough so I've digested, but the dinner was really filling and I still feel really full.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Yeah. What did you have?
Well, I just bought a chicken because I had to go in to get gas because I have to go to West Hampton tomorrow. And I realized I don't have enough gas. So I bought a chicken. And then I made this, the Israeli couscous. And
Uh-huh.
you put in and you add a can of chickpeas and basil pesto and some olive oil. It was really good. We've had it
Mhm.
before, but it was just more filling than I remember.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So anyway, hi Leslie.
Hello.
Hey Jill.
Can you
Well, we
hear
don't
me?
see Jill.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wishing there was a little bit more sunshine.
It's been a cold spring. I mean, here I am sitting with a vest on in my house, which is
Mm.
usually very warm, and it's like, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's a chill in the house.
It's been a very chilly spring.
But I guess we need the rain.
Yeah, and we do need the rain. It's true.
I'm going to
Yes,
mute
so-
myself.
I just hope we don't go to like 80 degrees, like quickly how that sometimes happens in the spring. Suddenly
Oh.
it's like summer and we can skip any transition. Anyway.
Anything goes these days.
Mhm. Mary, do we know if everybody's coming? I think they are. If there was one night.
Last night,
something-
everybody said that they could all come.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Yep.
What's the matter?
oh, I'm just reading something
Uh,
that made me laugh.
Hmm.
So,
do you update your Zoom very often? Last week I had a problem getting on a meeting that I think Northampton set up that I was, working for them a little bit. the same problem that I had like before, my camera wouldn't come on, and so I updated. I'm hoping that my sister who works for the Boston Public Schools said that the way theirs is set up, it automatically updates every time they log into a Zoom account. But that doesn't seem to happen, when you're just doing it at home. So I did
Right,
that. I'm hoping that
right.
that will do it.
See, because I have a professional account,
Uh-huh.
so it just automatically
Okay.
updates
Yeah,
itself.
maybe that's the way it is for schools.
Yeah.
But I was,
Right.
I was attending a Northampton Public School meeting and I couldn't get on. All the
Right.
stuff that had happened once before kept happening. My camera wouldn't come on and all this stuff.
Right. And so
And
you
I was
might
trying-
have to update your
Yeah, I did
personal
update.
account.
I
Yeah.
did update. I wondered if that's what
Okay.
it was.
Yeah.
Anyway. Hi, Tim. Hi, Brad. Hi, Melanie.
Hello.
I think Savannah was coming tonight. Yep, there's
Yep.
Savannah. Okay.
Savannah's here.
So we just need Kate and then we'll have
Yeah.
everybody.
May I inquire, will there be an opportunity to ask a question?
Yeah, what I'm hoping, because we have a lot to talk about, is that I was gonna let people know that if you could save your questions till the end, because we might answer your question in our discussion. So I will acknowledge all of you if that's okay.
Okay.
We just have a lot to talk about. And these hours go by so quickly, but yes, Jill, I will definitely. Is that okay? Or is it a burning question?
Well, it's a good question, I think, but I could put it in the chat, I guess.
I'm
Ask
not
it.
sure that the chat works though.
Yeah, there is a chat because it's my account. So,
Oh, perfect. That would be great,
Yeah.
Jill,
Yeah.
because then we can make sure that we don't forget to answer your question. And then also, it's possible that somebody is answering, they might be able to just answer your question
Right.
while they're talking. Okay, thank you. That'd be great.
Got a sec, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so it looks like we're all here. Kate is here. We don't see her yet, but she is here.
Yeah, sorry, Michelle. I'm gonna be off camera while I finish shoving my dinner into my mouth. I
That's okay.
apologize.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I get it. That's happened to me before where I'm like finishing at the very last minute. Okay, so our Marian, have you done the Zoom recording statement? You haven't, right? Even though we know it's being
so
recorded.
all it is that we're meeting online according to open meeting laws. And the minutes, and the minutes will be on file with the town clerk when they're ready. And the recording will be on file for some amount of time.
And the
So-
votes have to be roll call votes,
Yeah.
Yes.
just to, thank you.
And so the agenda for tonight is we're going to review the minutes from the last meeting, update on the new cost estimate, communications, and then next steps. And so looks like so far we only have 2 guests. So yeah, Jill offered to put her question in the chat, which is great because if somebody is answering a related question, maybe they can look at Jill's question, or is it a question or comment? Whatever. Okay, so let's start with the minutes. Does anybody have any comments about the minutes? I sent my 2 things to Melanie already. Otherwise, they looked quite good.
Michelle, when did you send those 2 things?
Oh, yesterday
Yesterday.
afternoon. Yeah.
Oh, I think I missed them.
Oh, it's okay. It was okay. So I'll tell you what it was. The
Okay.
very bottom, the last dot, it just seemed like the word B should be there. Questions will be sent, because it says questions will sent to the cost estimators. And then on the second page about the May Day celebration, the
Yep.
sentence was a little awkward. I was trying to figure it out. Susie Mosier will map out what a library and the spaces could like. I think you meant look like, or I'm not sure what you meant, but anyway.
Consideration of serving this and will map out what a library,
And the spaces could like is what it says.
would look like.
Or
What
could look like
a
or something, or
library-
what the spaces, the allocated
look
spaces
like, I think,
are or
because-
something.
Yeah, could look like. I think is what you're just missing that one word.
What
Yeah.
the library could look like.
Yeah,
Thank
something like
you.
that.
Okay.
Did anybody else have any comments about the minutes?
I did not, except again to thank Melanie for her really careful documenting of all of these conversations.
Definitely. Welcome, Mike. I was just telling our guest tonight that if you can use the chat box to put your question in there. Otherwise, I'm asking people to hold their questions till the end because we have a lot to cover tonight. And when then we'll address them, or if we see it in the chat, it's possible that someone may be able to answer it related to what they're talking about anyway. Okay? Good, great, thank you. All right, so let's have an update on the latest cost estimate that we got from Hennessy, sorry, Hennessy.
Well, so it's the same cost estimate. It just had a couple of typos in it, so we cleaned those up. And so, so we contracted with Hennessy Consulting Services to do a cost estimate. The base cost estimate, for the construction was very similar to RLB, essentially the same. And the difference between the Hennessy estimate and the so the Hennessy estimate is about $6.4 million. And the RLB estimate is now just under $8 million. And the difference is the soft cost. So Lauren and Andrea added 40% to RLB's estimate for soft cost.
30%, you said?
40%.
Really?
Yeah. And
Okay, that's higher than I
and-
recalled hearing.
okay. And so and Hennessy didn't add that percentage. So Lauren and Andrea are doing research about soft cost percentages. So they were advised by an owner's project manager to add between 38 and 42% for soft costs. So they just chose 40. And that's 20% for for eligible costs. So architectural, engineering, eligible furnishings, owner's project manager, and then 20% for the ineligible costs. We've discussed that we don't agree that we're going to need 20% for the ineligible costs, but they're very concerned about the volatile construction market. And they don't want us to get to a point where we're, partway through the project and we don't have enough money. And we need to, ask the town for more money. So we're having some conversations, and they're doing some more research, and then we'll just continue, and so they reached out to 7 different owners project managers, because the owners project managers are the ones that review bids when they come in, and they're the ones actually managing the construction projects. And so they're gathering more feedback. So just like we're doing our due diligence, they're doing their due diligence, because they want this to be a successful project.
Mhm. So have they heard back from any, it sounded like you said a singular, they've heard from
Yeah,
one?
they have one. They've heard from
Okay.
one. So
Okay. All right, Kate, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Thanks, Michelle. So you already answered one of them, Marianne, in terms of the implications for town costs of this 40%. But if in the 40% of soft costs, are we actually talking about construction costs?
No, the 40% for soft costs are architect, so the design fees, the professionals that, and the engineering fees, and then the professionals, so like the owner's project manager, the clerk of the works. And then, so that's part of their 20%, which are eligible costs. And then eligible furnishings, so library shelving, staff desks, so the circulation desk, any furnishing that's attached to the wall, so the,
Yeah.
the cabinets in the kitchenette, or if there were built-in cabinets in the staff workroom, would all fall under those eligible, that 20%. And then the other 20% would be FF&E and site work. So paving, and
Well,
That's eligible or ineligible?
that's ineligible.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to verify.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So they kind of know the timeline we need, right?
Right, right.
Okay. All right, Tim, you have a question?
Yeah, so it sounds to me like we're still in limbo until they finish their due diligence. So what can we accomplish tonight that wouldn't be duplicated or replaced by a meeting 2 days from now? Should we have waited for another 2 days to hear from them, or? I feel like we're in a position where we're up in the air until we get more conclusive results from the discussion with the NBLC.
Right. We don't have it. All we have is what they've given us so far, and we're still waiting for some different information. Hopefully they will consider adjusting things after they talk to some other OPMs. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. But I think it's important. The FinCom does meet tomorrow night, and we knew that, so we're kind of hoping that we would have some numbers for them. All we
Have
is-
some numbers.
Hmm?
So
Yeah.
we do have some numbers.
Yeah, but we're
Um,
hoping we would have some revised numbers
Right, right.
that they can, that LBS
So I
can
don't think,
approve.
the other thing that happened is we sent those questions off to RLB about different components in their cost estimate.
Mhm.
And they still have not answered those questions. So, because we wanted to see if, so we took Lauren and I worked together, and Andrea, we worked together to take some things out of the cost estimate.
Mhm.
But that we had some questions, and so we still haven't had the answer to those questions, but I don't think we're gonna see, like $1 million taken off of this cost estimate. I have a recommendation. I sent you a spreadsheet, and Brad can help interpret the spreadsheet. I sent it this evening, and I sent the same spreadsheet before, but it's the latest numbers based on the RLB numbers before RLB answers their questions. And I think what we should do is go to the finance committee and say, this is the worst case scenario. And this is the most that we'll need to budget for. And there's a chance that it will, be reduced, but it won't be drastically reduced. Construction costs are very high, and because we want to ask for not to exceed figure, they want to make sure that we ask for enough. And the estimate was based on a building program, not on, design documents. So there are a lot of unknowns. So I think we need to, because of the timing, we need to start the conversation or, I mean, the finance committee has already talked about this, but go to the finance committee with these numbers and just explain that we're still gathering information. But I mean, we don't expect a major reduction in these numbers.
Are you talking about from RLB or from the MBLC?
MBLC.
All right,
Why,
can we,
why
can
do you,
we,
why do you say that? Because they have put out 7 inquiries, so they are doing some due diligence. Why do you think there's not going to be a major reduction?
Because I think that the indicators from the industry are that the costs are very high. And there's nothing to indicate yet that they're going to come down.
But a good chunk of that soft cost has to do with FF&E, and they're talking about us going out and buying brand new materials, blah blah blah. I don't think in reality that would happen. So, I mean, there is a difference, a good difference between the estimate that you got and the RLB estimate. So if the MBLC would agree with that second estimate, that is a big difference, don't you think?
Yep, they're not going to. They're not going to. And so here's the thing. So this is the MBLC's game, right? This is their grant program. The MBLC helps towns since 1995. Somebody's not muted.
just came
and
on,
it's-
can you
it
mute
makes-
yourself, please?
Unintentional injuries
I-
in urban communities.
Can you
I'm gonna
delete-
go
can you
ahead and mute
delete it? Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So this is the MBLC's grant program. The MBLC helps towns build libraries that will meet their needs for the next 20 years. But really, they expect this to be, for the next 50 years, in a small town like Shutesbury. And the MBLC knows, they know some. Now we've talked about furnishing and they just don't seem willing to budge. So they are doing some research, but so far they don't seem willing to budge. These are the numbers that they want to budget. And so I'm not expecting a major difference. Now,
Okay.
just because we budget a certain amount doesn't mean that we have to actually spend that certain amount. So, and like I'm the cheapest person in the world. So when my kids were in the elementary school, and I think Shutesbury Elementary School is the best place on earth. And I still think I'm going to adopt some kindergartners so I can have that whole experience again. But one time I walked in and like over the summer, they bought this new desk for the front office. And I've already said this publicly. So, it was a monstrosity. It was like shiny and it was probably veneer, but it looked like the solid wood thing. And it looked so out of place in Shutesbury, right? This brand new, shiny, fancy, ginormous desk. And like, we are not gonna do that because that's not our style, right? Like we don't go buy the most expensive brand new furniture. For a library, they do recommend commercial grade furniture, but there are places where you can buy used commercial grade furniture. The whole West Hampton Library, which you'll remember, they fundraise their whole local match.
Marianne, I think we all understand that there will be a difference there. And the primary issue is what number has to go to the town meeting.
Well, so
What I hear
right
you, what I
now,
hear you saying is that there's not going to be any give from the MBLC on the original number, basically.
no, not the original number, the new number on the spreadsheet I sent this evening, which I also sent the
And
day it
Brad-
came.
Excuse me, but
Um,
Brad's gonna go over that. right?
So, and there may be some, further reduction, but it's not gonna be ginormous. And so that's the number that's gonna have to go to town meeting. So now, let me pull it up. The number that has to go to town meeting is 2 million. Well, it's not this number, but so $2,938,030 is the amount that they want us to be able to raise. And then remember the value of the land and the cash that we've already saved. So we have saved as a town, starting in 2007, $252,700. So, and then for the last 9 years, town meeting has voted to set aside 25,000. So that's why that account has that amount in it. And then the Friends of the Library have there's about 340,000 in privately raised funds. The Friends of the Library are, of course, committed to continuing fundraising, even after the building is done. But we only can count the amount of cash that we have. So we are allowed to get a different value for the land. The value that we submitted, which was about $57,000, is the assessed value. And we're allowed to get an appraised value. So I'm working on that.
Mhm.
And honestly, I have probably spent 30 hours working on that, and I have gotten really nowhere, absolutely nowhere. But I'm going to continue to work on that. And so we may, but again, the land value isn't going to be 500,000.
No, but can you just say the total number again, so everybody can hear it?
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
is $2,938,030.
And then the cash that we have between the Friends and what the town has put away is,
Let me get that number because
Okay.
Susie sent that to me. It's about $560,000.
yep, okay.
Yeah.
Good, okay.
And then the value of the land is at least 57,000. So we
Yeah,
have more than 600,000.
perhaps more, so.
Right.
All right, so Brad's had his hand up for a very long time. Thank you for being so patient. Brad, go ahead.
So with the costs, when I look at this stuff, I see various pieces of it. And starting at the top, this is reiterating things Marianne said. We have to live with the number the MBLC gives us. And our job has been to try to talk them into lowering it. I'm pleased to see, as we keep seeing these things, that little things come down. I'm sorry that it didn't go down faster. But I'm pleased to see there's movement in there, and they're still talking about all that. And within that bid, there are several pieces. One of them is the direct building costs. Marianne was saying that the new estimate wasn't that different from the old. I can tell watching the calculations that there's been some impact with all that. But that's a product of inflation over the last 10 years, and also the huge inflation of the recent years because of the pandemic and all the things that have, supply chain being out of whack. But so that direct cost is one big piece. Another big piece is all those soft costs. And I don't think someone like the MBLC would ever agree to lowering the cost from what it would cost to buy stuff new. On that score, what we have available to us is the savings we would get from the brand new cost to what we hope the actual cost will be. But I just don't think the MBLC would operate in a way to say, oh yeah, we'll lower that because we think you can buy something used. They want to make sure that we can always get the full cost. I still feel a little disappointed that they're sticking with 20%. I think that number's too high, and I don't think we have any leverage for that. That's just what our leverage is, to try to convince them otherwise. And I can tell Marianne has been working very hard at convincing them otherwise. And I can tell we've had a little bit of movement, and I'm sorry, it's not a big movement. And then that gets me back to the big picture, which is that this number may continue to change. I hope it does continue to change, but right now it's the number we have. And so that's the one that has to go forward. And if anything's, given all the work that's been put into this, I think if the number goes anywhere, it will go down. And it sounds like if it goes down, it's only going to go down in small chunks. So that's my bit.
Okay, Melanie?
This is before we forget, we didn't do a roll call vote to approve the meeting minutes.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I just didn't want it to get lost with all the
Okay.
stuff we talked about.
Should we do that now so we don't forget? Okay.
I
All
move
right.
that
Did
we
somebody
approve
make a
the,
motion?
yeah, I'm on it. Can you hear
Okay.
me? I
Yeah.
move that we approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Okay, Brad seconded. Okay, so let's see. We'll start with Kate,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Savannah,
Aye.
and me, aye. Michelle. Okay, great. Thank you, Melanie. Is that why you raised your hand earlier?
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's okay. It's not, it's fine. I'm on it.
I just wanted to get to the meat of what we need to talk about tonight. Okay. All right, so Kate, go ahead.
Yeah, so we have I think Brad and Marianne are sort of bringing us to the same place of, there's a finance committee meeting tomorrow. And we are hoping to make a recommendation to the finance committee of a not to exceed figure for them to figure out how to meet, right? That's what we're trying to do,
Right.
as far as I understand it. And if anyone disagrees with that goal, then now would be a good time to say so, I think. But what I am hearing roughly is that some of this are other choices that can be made that are out of our control. But the last time that the finance committee met, they proposed $2.2 million of borrowing $2.2 million for the library and allocating $400,000 out of free cash, which gets us to a total town burden or obligation of 2.6. And after we subtract the money already saved in both accounts and the land, am I thinking, can I just check that assumption with others before I?
Marianne or Brad, you have a comment about that?
I think your math is based on old numbers and it's declined a little bit, but not by much.
Okay.
And the FinCom didn't make any
Determination.
definitive proposals, right?
Okay, all right.
Brad and I were there last week and they were just moving money around hypothetically. I mean, Brad stayed longer than I did, so
Okay.
I
I
think
guess the only other thing that I would like to say is that the towns, just so that we have a context, the town's obligation in 2011 or 12, if we had decided to accept that grant and match it, was $1.4 million in 2012 dollars, which is 1.753 and change today. So I just think it's helpful to think about, you know, how much has the cost actually escalated? Because inflation has been happening all along, right? It's been 10 years. So I guess that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, Marianne?
Let me see what I wrote in my notes. So anyway, so when we bring a number to the finance committee, you know, they're gonna look at the total number and then consider, you know, the library ask in relation to other town needs, and then they'll make it, and you know, they'll make a decision for meeting the town's needs, and we don't really need to worry about whether or not it's going to be 2.9 million or 2.7 million or, you know, or 2.5 million, because we, as we have more information, like we can make an amendment on the town meeting floor if, you know, if there's a big change. And then you don't actually do the borrowing until, you know, pretty far into the project. So, so we don't have to borrow, you know, all of it won't be borrowing. They'll use some cash reserves, and they'll use some of the debt capacity that's already been built into the budget, which would be borrowing, but it's already covered. But it's, you know, but it's not like town meeting locks us into borrowing the amount that we say at town meeting, and the FinCom knows that. So this is the information we have now. Town meetings in a month. We need to get working on a warrant article. You know, I'd say it's, you know, and we don't expect a major change. So, and the FinCom understands that, that there's flexibility down the line.
So can you share that sheet? Because if I pull it up, then I can't see anybody and I can't see if they've got their hands raised or anything. So
The Excel sheet?
yeah,
Or,
yeah. I have
this-
it pulled up on my computer, but then when I pull it up to look at it, I can't see anybody. So I can't see if there's
okay,
a question or comment.
alrighty. Give me
Is
one
that
second.
possible?
Yep,
Just so we know what numbers we're talking about to propose
Right.
for tomorrow night, because we'll have to vote on that too.
yeah, I just have to pull it up so that I can,
Sure, sure.
okay. And let's see, it is this one. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
So it's this number. So the total project cost is $7,914,367.
So it went down a little.
Yeah. And then the grant amount is $4,976, $976,337. And then this is the local portion, the $2,938,030. And then remember, you know, that this number, so in all other grant rounds, this number was fixed. So before you, when you submitted your application, you submitted an eligible number, and you know, and that was the amount that they gave you. If this project, if it ends up that there are more eligible costs, or this project does get more expensive, this number grows with the project.
Mhm.
So.
Okay.
Brad has his hand raised.
Oh, sorry. I was just looking at the sheet. Go ahead, Brad.
So I'm assuming that we give some version of this to the finance committee. Is that correct? Or do we just give the number?
We could give them this sheet.
The reason I bring that up is my perpetual thing. If we're going to give this sheet, I would rather clean it up first. It's got all
Oh,
this
that would be good.
information that
Yeah.
isn't needed.
Yeah.
and why confuse the issue? The
Right.
part that matters is the new estimate ineligible and eligible. With the numbers to the left of those are less important and confusing. So anyway, I'll work up a cleaner version.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would make total sense to get rid of those things because they are confusing, and then everybody can see what, you know, what the numbers are and what the soft costs are and all of that.
Quite frankly, I'm surprised Brad hadn't already done that.
Didn't you just
Give
send
me
us
a
out
moment.
tonight, though?
Yeah.
You had 15 minute time.
Okay, so has everybody seen this? Should I stop sharing it?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right.
Thank you. Does anybody on the trustees have any more comments or questions? I mean, because the process is, you know, if this goes through and then we have to hire the architects and the project manager and all that, and the design, after the design phase is when you really need the money, right?
Well, actually, the construction phase is when you really need the
Yeah.
money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is a ways away because it's a
Mhm.
long process. I mean, you get the building program, but you still got to do all the design work.
Right.
Okay. Well, I was hoping it would get reduced more, but we can still hope that maybe something will come down. I suppose those soft costs might come down. Since they've only heard back from one OPM. Somehow I missed that. I thought that soft costs were gonna be more like 30% or something. Where did I get that number?
Well, there was a much lower percentage, I think, earlier in the process that we were, you know, encouraged to think about it, I believe, for soft costs, and I believe that they have escalated significantly over the process. If I'm wrong about that, again, correct me, but that's what I am remembering.
Oh, that's kind of what I remember too, which is why I was surprised when it showed up as 40%. I was like, what?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I understand, you know, that the last thing that the MBLC wants is to give a grant and we accept it, but don't allocate enough to match it appropriately so that the project gets stalled halfway through. That's a disaster, right?
Right.
All
Right.
around. It's a disaster for them. It would be a disaster for us. I think that there's, you know, there's risks on both sides. And we all wish that they would see some of the other risks, right? But that's the one that they seem most focused on from what you're telling us.
Are we ready to
Isn't-
make a motion so we can know what we're talking about at finance committee tomorrow night? And who's
Yeah,
gonna?
that's the next question is, you know, the town portion less, you know, just give the town portion, and the finance committee are aware of what has been saved and raised, right? They have that figure. They know what the current appraisal of the land is. They have that figure. They know better than we do.
Well,
to
they
what
don't have
degree.
the appraisal yet, is what Mary Ann said. It's just the
We don't
assessment.
have a
They
new
have a
appraisal.
current
We have-
number that we have.
Yeah, so they
Yeah,
have that
that's-
number.
That's all there is, yeah.
And then they know much better than we do the degree to which they think it's prudent to transfer from other accounts towards this, right? That's really their purview rather than ours. So it
mhm.
seems to me that we present the, you know, bottom line of $2.938 million and It's got $30 in there, but you know, that's a rounding error when we're talking about this amount, so. Yeah, I make a motion that we present that figure. I'm gonna put it in the chat for clarity in the minutes
Okay, and then Brad has a question or a
for
comment.
finance committee.
I just finished revising the sheet. If you
Okay.
want me to send it to you all, or I can just send it to Mary Ann.
I think it would be great if you could send it to all of us, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
I would second the motion.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote on this. Okay, Brad.
Yes.
Okay, Melanie.
For the meeting minutes, can someone state just in a sentence, like what we're voting on?
Okay,
Yes, there's a motion to send after this meeting, the bottom line figure of the town's portion for this library project to be $2,938,030.
To the finance committee.
mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, okay. And I already did Brad, right? Tim,
Yes.
Savannah,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and me, Michelle. Yes. Okay. All right, so who
What-
can go tomorrow night? The finance committee.
I can be there, but what's going to happen? Are they just going to get the number, or are they actually going to try to make some decisions?
I
Do
mean,
we-
we don't control their agenda, so I have no idea. There's no way for us to say that, right?
Right. So Tim, last week when Brad and I were there, they were moving money around hypothetically on a spreadsheet during the meeting,
Mhm.
which was what was still happening when I left the meeting, but you know, I don't know what they're gonna be doing tomorrow night. I mean,
I can be there. Do you know what time it is?
I don't.
That doesn't matter. I'll check.
It's on
the
the,
calendar.
it's on the town calendar.
Yeah.
Brad, so you seem to have an intimate knowledge. Are you available too? I know you just went last week, but
You're muted, Brad, so we didn't hear your answer. You could do this, you know, a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Okay. Okay. All right,
okay.
good.
All right, so Tim, Brad, and Marianne. Are you going, Marianne? I assume. Okay. Thank you, all of you.
It's at 7 o'clock tomorrow night.
Okay.
Did you check that? Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, then let's do communications and then we'll try to answer the questions in the chat box. So communications first. Okay. I think you put that on there.
Yeah, so, you know, we've had the same rules all along. When we know something, we say something, right? And this is what we know. I'm disappointed. You know, and I'm just gonna say that and leave it there. But this is, as you know, this is for the town to decide. The town authorized us to apply for this grant. The town has, you know, it's for the town to decide whether they want to accept the grant and the implications of accepting that grant. You know, I think it is reasonable to put it into some kind of context and to say that, you know, the subtotal the subtotal of the amount to be borrowed, if you don't consider any transfer from any other funds apart from the amount that's already been saved and raised, okay, is $568,000 difference from the previous time.
Say the number again.
can I share my screen and show you how I came up with this number?
Yeah, I'll make you the co-host.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, where are you? Here we go.
Sometimes I wonder.
And there you go. And now you're the co-host, so you can share your screen.
Okay. Can people see this? It's hard when you're sharing your screen to know what's legible. So over here on the pre-Brad spreadsheet, okay, we have the town portion here. This is the approximate total raised to date, okay? And then there's a subtotal. We don't know if there'll be a transfer from any other fund, so I left that blank. We do know roughly the value of the land. Is that about right? Is it 57 or is it 58? 57 is close enough. And there's the subtotal. This number here that I am bolding right now, okay, the 1.753 represents the cost in 2022 dollars of the town's share of the previous project. Okay, so the $1.4 million from 2011 and 12 turns into 1.753 and change in 2022, just by the inflation that's happened over the last, 10 to 11 years. Okay, and so the difference between, without considering any cash transfer, the difference between the previous amount to be borrowed and what we think would need to be borrowed is about $568,000. That's how I did my math. Brad, I see your hand up though, so you may have some thoughts as our treasurer.
Let me see. So you're adding inflation, which I think is appropriate, but I don't think it's building inflation. And I think building inflation is what's the main thing that's pushing it up. And I would also change one phrase you said. The cost we have, the town portion, 2.9, is what we have to budget for, not what we have to spend or borrow. We still hope to reduce that through a whole bunch of different means, but it's the MBLC's number. And I think we all believe that we're going to save a bunch of that. We just can't do it until the project is happening. We have to budget for the entire amount and then reduce it as the project goes on. And we've already talked about all sorts of ways that will happen. So all of this is maximum borrowing, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the inflation understates what's happened because of construction costs going way up past regular inflation. And this is in spite of reducing the size by a bit. It wasn't reduced a huge amount, but we did make it smaller, not larger.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to quantify, I think, what the actual construction inflation has been. I think you're right, Brad. I mean, I hear it from my husband every so often about how ridiculous the cost of a piece of plywood is, or like some maple shelving he made for a customer. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And there's no way to predict if that's going to change in the next year by the time we start building in 2023.
I agree with that, but it seems to me, sorry, Tim, if I stepped on you, but I agree with what you're saying, that its construction costs are out of line with baseline inflation. But even with baseline inflation, my point is that this project is not drastically different in cost to the town than the previous one. We had hoped that it would be, but in fact, it's not.
Right.
Drastically different in cost to the town. So that's the point of using, not using a construction inflation if someone has like a cost curve for construction inflation over the last 10 to 11 years, that would be a useful thing, but I don't think anyone is under any illusion that that's what's driving this cost. But a baseline inflation, that's what's driving the really significant difference. But the baseline inflation accounts for an awful lot of it, is my point. Should I stop sharing this?
It's okay with me.
Thanks.
So I get your point, but what do we do with this? Did you have an idea?
Yeah, I mean, we need to put out a statement. And the one question is of timing. If FinCom are meeting tomorrow night, they have decisions to make that we don't control.
Right.
I'm really loath to put something out tomorrow that may be made redundant 24 hours later, or obsolete rather 24 hours later, because of how FinCom decides to approach the issue. So that's the conundrum I think we're facing.
I personally feel like we need to wait to see what FinCom comes up with. Go ahead, Brad.
I go back to what Mary Ann said. We only have one number. It's the only one we can present. I think we should expect that it's going to change and not worry about it. We really don't have any other choice. I mean, what are we going to do? Go to FinCom and say, this is in process, hold on? I mean, they have to do their work too.
Yeah.
And so I keep coming back to, we do have a number, we know a number, and I wouldn't shy away from that. I would just say, this is it, and we're hoping to bring it down some more. I think Mary Ann put it as, this is the ceiling. And that's a very good way to put it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think this is the ceiling, but we don't yet know the floor.
Right. We're not
And all
gonna-
we can work with is the ceiling. The
Yeah.
only number we have right now is that ceiling.
Right. Right. Okay, Tim.
Yeah, I agree with Brad. I mean, to me, the bottom line is that I feel the town is very enthusiastic about a library. Look what it's done for the last 10 years. And yeah, we'd all like to present a lower number, but this is what it is. Let's do it. Let's say, like Brad said, it's possible it's going to be lower. But, I want to rely on the town's enthusiasm and continued enthusiasm and just go for it. I think we've done, I shouldn't say we, because I really didn't do it, but you all have done an incredible job of communicating everything up to this point. They have pretty much everything we have, that the people in, the town citizens do. We've done our job to this point. We've communicated everything. If we have some new information, that we hear from the MBLC, fine, but let's just go for it and take a positive attitude.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else? I know we're still trying to get the number down, but I feel like until we get some other information, this is all we have. So, and they do need to get working on their budget, town budget. So, are we ready to talk about next steps, and then we can answer some of the questions in the chat box before we're done? So we don't know if how soon we'll need to meet again, because they could come up with some other information, and Mary Ann will just have to let us know, and we'll just have to pull together a meeting.
So we do have one tentatively for Thursday, right?
We do have one, yes.
Yeah,
Is
we
it
have two
posted? It's
scheduled,
posted,
one for
right?
Thursday and one for next Monday.
Yeah, so. Okay. Are we ready to answer some questions from the chat box then? Since we know we already have. Okay, so Jill had a question. Marianne really is good about remembering the numbers. Can you answer Jill's question about the square
So,
footage?
so I'm going to read the question so Melanie can put it in the minutes. So the question is, the present official library building plan from the library website says that the total square feet is 5,490 square feet. At the October 24th, 2021 library trustee meeting, there was a unanimous decision to submit a plan for 6,828 square feet. My questions are, one, which is the correct square feet? So the correct square feet is the 5,490. And if the lesser number is correct, where was the cost,
You should
So-
read what were the cuts?
the cuts made? And when was the change made? So the change was made between October 24th and December 3rd when the application was submitted. And I can send you the October 24th building program, and I can send you the final building program, and you can look at the differences. Off the top of my head, I don't remember them all. I do know one largest change was I had miscalculated the floor space needed for the shelving that we specified. So the floor space for the shelving, for the adult shelving, was reduced by about half, but that doesn't explain all of that. But we made a lot of changes to the building program between the end of October and the beginning of December. We continued to go through, public meetings, and then I had feedback from the MBLC. So there were a lot of changes.
And that includes the 700 square foot pavilion, the 5,490 includes the 700 square foot pavilion.
I think the 700 square foot covered porch, it's not a pavilion, it's a covered porch. It is additional, but it is budgeted for in both cost estimates. And there was also a 700 square foot covered porch on the plan 10 years ago.
Marianne, just really quickly, I know one thing we did was reduce the size of the community room,
Yes,
which was a chunk of square footage.
Yeah.
And then we tweaked the staff, like the reception area, I believe got smaller.
Kate, could
Oh,
you
no.
speak up? Could you speak louder?
Sure, I think the reception area in the work, the workspace behind the main desk got smaller too. If I'm remembering correctly, those are a couple of other changes that we made.
And Brad?
The most recent building program is up on the website, and it has the revised numbers that we used. I echoing what Marianne said, we kept working. I would say between the date of the number you have and the date of the final, we added a little bit, but we subtracted a bunch more. We talked with the MBLC, and we just kept working on making it more and tighter in terms of accuracy. And I thought that was a great process.
Okay. Leslie, did you have something? I think your question got answered because we just voted on the amount for tomorrow night. Do you have another question? Leslie?
I raised another question in the chat.
Oh, further down. Okay.
Further down. And Kate responded in the chat. But again, what I said, and this is something I've been saying to you all for months and months, going back to last fall. Kate and others, with respect to inflation numbers you were talking about do not take into account how many residents have been hit hard by increasing town budgets and taxes over the past 10 years. That's the impact of inflation writ large. And, you know, at the last meeting where I had anything or I made any public comments, I raised a flag, is that unless costs came down significantly, that there are going to be issues going into town meeting. And I think that's what we might be looking at.
Okay, Kate?
You know, honestly, I think you might be right, Leslie. I'm hoping that the issues are that the disagreements are handled respectfully, as you have when you come here and as others who've come and participated in the process. That's what my best hope. I do not expect that everyone is going to be in favor of this. I think that would be unreasonable to expect. My hopes are that, you know, we've done the very best we could to try to get this ceiling number as low as we can. It's lower than, you know, was when we, you know, reported what we had the last time. Is it as low as we want to be? You've heard clearly it is not. But it is what we have to work with now. And I guess I feel like there's two pieces of the due diligence that we have to do. And one is giving the number to the finance committee so that they can do their due diligence, so they can figure out from their perspective how to fit this in to the budget. And then, you know, and then we have an ongoing piece of due diligence if the town agrees to, at town meeting, to move forward, then we have the crucial task of continuing to fight to lower costs and to raise money. Those two things are the most important things I think that we will need to do. I think it's going to be a difficult decision. And all I can say is that I hope that you've seen what we've tried to do to make the building smaller. You've heard what we've been trying to do to bring the cost down. A lot of these are outside of our control, right? They are functions of global economic forces that we can't, you know, we can't mitigate. And so I guess I just feel like if our best, the best we can do is to bring it to the voters and let the voters decide.
Right. And Mike, we're not making any recommendation to the finance committee. We're just giving them the number. It's not our job to ask them where to come up with the money or if they can find the money. So I guess that's my response for that one. Is there any other comments or questions?
Marianne put her hand up.
Oh,
Yeah.
you did?
So I
Marianne?
just want to say that when we were writing the building program, it was really my job to write the building program. And so I felt like I had two jobs. I had to write a building program and a grant application that would win the grant from the MBLC. So I know what the MBLC's grant program is. I know what their goals are. And so I had to, and the data is the data. I didn't create the data, except I created the programming and I marketed the services so that, you know, so that our usage statistics were high, but the data is the data. And so I used the data to tell a story that described a library that would meet the needs of the town for the next 20 years. I made the building program as tight as I could make it. And as big as I could make it, you know? So because I wanted to get the grant because the grant is going to give us $5 million. And without this grant, we have nothing.
It's really true. Because we can't build a library with what little
We,
we've saved.
we cannot do it on our own.
No, we can't.
So we worked really hard. We're making a big ask. And people are going to work hard to try and make it pass, but it may not pass. And we know that, we know it. We know we're making a big ask. We know how hard we worked on the building program and our grant application. I'm really proud of the work that I did and the work that you all did. I think we were just an amazing team. And so thank you all for the work that you put into this and for the years of service to the town.
Well, thank
It's
you, Mary Ann.
inspiring to work amongst you.
Yes, it has been. It's been a very fast process, but we got a lot of work done in a very short period of time because everybody really pitched in. So Brad, you have a question or a comment?
Just in addition to all that, we are also working with this, in a way, amazing grant, 75% not of eligible costs, not 60 or less of eligible costs. And, there's a lot of impediments right now, but there's a lot of positive things too.
Right, I agree. Savannah, did you have a comment? Your hand was up for a minute.
It wasn't hand, it was an applause.
Oh, okay. That's true. Melanie.
I don't want to be, I want to be, I am feeling positive about things, but I do think that this is our shot. I'm not sure, and I'm not the first one to say this, but if we have to give this money back, I think that the state, if we have to give back 2 grants, if the next time we apply for a grant from the state for a library, the MBLC might think again about whether we should be given another chance. And, not to mention the fact that, we know that this small library pilot project probably isn't going to happen again. It's probably not a pilot. That this 75%, this is almost certainly a one-time shot at the 75%. And it might be our last chance at this grant. So I think that just to lay it out there and be realistic about it, I think,
Mhm.
This is it.
Okay, Tim.
I sense a little bit of a downer tone to this meeting, and I don't want to see that. This is a great town. It's put a lot of energy in trying to put a library project in front of the town. Lots of things can happen. Let's not just dwell on negative things that can happen. A lot of positive things can happen. And that's how I choose to think about this. And I think as a group together, we can be realistic, but let's not be negative. Let's be positive. It's just an attitude.
Thank you,
Kicking
Tim.
the butt.
Just to be clear, I'm not trying to be negative about it. I'm trying to be realistic. And I think that the reason I bring that up is I think that some idea that people may have that somehow we're just going to apply for another grant in a couple of years and we'll have another shot at this, is probably not realistic.
True.
And the waiting list would be very long.
Yeah, construction costs are going to keep going up.
Mhm.
That's all in the future, though. The next few months,
This is the
we
moment.
are trustees who are to support the library in any way we can.
Right.
And I think we should present as absolutely a positive attitude as we can. And I do feel positive. I'm not happy with the number, but I feel positive about the fact that the town as a whole can take a good look at itself and make the right decision. And I hope that's for a library.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I was at the Friends meeting the other day, and they're pumped. They feel like we can do this. They're gonna really try really hard to get people out to vote, and they're gonna keep raising money like they have. I mean, they've been fantastic, you know. So we still have the opportunity to raise more money. And yeah, the number is incredibly disappointing, and I was really hoping that we'd get some news from NBLC for tonight so that we wouldn't have to present this number. But it is what it is, and it still could change. So, but we don't have a lot of time before the warrant has to be written. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. And Brad?
Tim, I want to thank you for that. I was feeling the same thing and I didn't know how to express it. There are definitely concerns. We all have concerns. I'm not sure that we totally share each one, but I think we all have concerns with the way the processes went and what the price is. But it's also, I think back to what the phrase Kate came up with very early on. We, as trustees, what we want is the best library the town can afford. We understand that the current library doesn't suit our needs. We need something better, and we've tried really hard to come up with something better. And I think that we should applaud ourselves for the work involved. And I agree. I think that we should try to have as much of a positive attitude towards it, even if we're also concerned.
I mean, just look at the amount of money that the grant represents.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that, but that's a huge amount of money that
Yes.
comes to Shutesbury. And let's
Yep.
go for it.
Yep. Savannah?
So one thing that I think is that in some ways, for some people in town, the number doesn't matter. I think that a low number would be very nice, but I think for some people, it doesn't matter what the number is. There are some folks who just have become convinced that a new library is really not necessary. So it's really not something that we should even be talking about or planning for or raising money for. And I think we have to sort of try to not cater to that attitude. I think we have to sort of say, this is the number, and as other people have said already, we've done our best, we're doing our best, we're going to continue to do our best, and please join us. That's what we have to say. And the number of people who join, I mean, the people who are enthusiastic about it right now will no doubt join us, and the people who are not enthusiastic about it, I think it would not, the number really is irrelevant. So I hate to think like that, but it's something that I have observed being in this town and having been part of the process and the work to try and get a library for a long time. So if we can just focus on the things we've done and the way we're going to proceed in the future and not even think about the number. So Michelle, I just want to say the number would have been wonderful to be smaller, but don't let it bother you. That's just the way it's, that's just the way it is.
It's true. Thank you, Savannah. Kate?
You know, I appreciate so much what y'all are saying, and I hear you. And, you know, part of my heart is totally there. I am going to add, however, that there are people who are strong supporters of libraries, of this library, of improved library services and structures in town, who are reasonably concerned about the impact of this on their budget. And all I'm saying for myself is my commitment is to keep that central to me. Okay. I agree with you, Savannah. There are some people who are just like, this is not what we need. But there are some people who really would like our library to have better facilities, but are nonetheless up against the wall financially. And my personal commitment is to serve those people as well as, and I think we've tried really hard to do that. And I believe that we will continue to try to do that. And any creative solutions that we can come up with that will abate the cost for people who can least afford to pay it is what I'm up for. Okay. And any kind of creative thinking about how we might do that, I'm up for. Because honestly, the last thing I want to do is make it harder for people to live here in security. Okay. And so I hear what you all are saying, and we have achieved an enormous thing in working in a very short space of time to gather the kind of input that we gathered, to submit the quality product that we submitted, and to have done our due diligence every second since then. And I don't mean to say anything that undercuts any of that or my tremendous pride in working with you all. This is how I'm approaching this going forward, is I have to hold those people I've been talking to in these meetings or on Nextdoor for months now, and who've been saying, we would love a new library, but we're scared about what it means for our family's ability to stay here. I have to hold that right at the center of my heart.
Okay.
I think that is part of the conversation that we have been having since 2012 when we had to decline the last grant. You know, in every fundraising letter, we wrote, you know, if you can, please donate so that we can, help decrease the tax impact of this project when it happens. And, something funny happens to money over the course of 10 years. And I see it, I don't quite understand it. But, when 10 years ago, when we had that project cost estimated, we were hoping to build a $2 million building, and it was a $3.5 million building. And so this time, when they first started talking about the small library pilot project, they were talking about a $3 million grant, and now it's a $5 million grant, and it's an $8 million project. So we've been working really hard, and time goes by, and we need a new library. And so I have no doubt that the Friends of the Library will continue to fundraise and help pay for this project for years to come. And it's and we'll do our best over these next 4 weeks, and we'll make our ask, and some people will vote yes and some people will vote no, and it doesn't mean that they're bad people if they vote against it. Some people, it's, they're making a personal decision. Some people, they have different values and different desires. And I do hope, I hope that the conversation can be different than this time than it was 10 years ago. But anyway, it's 4 weeks. We'll do the best we can and hope for the best.
Okay, thank you for the volunteers going to the finance committee tomorrow night, and then we'll just keep Thursday open in case we get some more news, any new news from MBLC, and we have next Monday. Isn't next Monday
Yeah.
posted also? Okay.
Yeah, next Monday's posted too. Yeah.
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
post meetings for you every night of the week and, you know, cancel
No
them.
plans.
Yes, you know, so, yeah.
Can I ask a quick question before we leave? There was someone else who was a participant.
Guy DeVito,
Oh, yeah,
Sorry?
they didn't stay very long though.
yeah, GUY and then DEVITO.
Okay. And I thought I saw Susie at the beginning too.
She was only here for a blip. She must have
Oh, okay.
decided to, maybe something happened.
Anyone else? Is that everybody? I got Mike, Jill,
Jill.
Leslie, anybody
That
else?
was- They
Okay.
were the
That's it.
primary,
And then I copied and pasted the questions that they posted in the chat into a Word document, so I can send you those for the
Got 'em. I
minutes.
pulled them out of the
You got
chat.
them? Okay, already good. Okay,
I think I got all of them.
okay.
I just wanted to ask a question about some misinformation that was on Nextdoor. I think it was in reference to the Sandy Can, but it came out that you asked for sewer and water. Did you see that, Kate? I'd like
So
to correct that.
no, that's not something to be corrected. So we had a complaint that the library didn't have a bathroom and
Yeah.
wasn't accessible.
Yeah.
And so I did research and I found, unfortunately, that public buildings don't have to provide a public restroom. But
Uh-huh.
in that research, I found that we're in violation of OSHA laws. So, because the
Hmm.
staff cannot wash their hands.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
I came up with a plan to bring water to the building because we're going to need water in the building once it's not a library, right? And sent it to the building committee. Nothing's
I
going to
was
happen
wondering how
anytime
this person
soon.
knew about it and we didn't know anything about it, so I thought it was
Well, because
misinformation.
Bob Groves told her about it. And you know, as the department head, it's my responsibility to make sure my employees can wash their hands. And so I
Absolutely.
have
It's just
done,
I thought it was misinformation, so that's why I just wanted to ask about it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's why I
so-
left that one alone.
right. And we, you know, and it's you know, it's been a whirlwind. And I had it on the list of notes to bring up at a trustee meeting and then I didn't.
It's
but
okay. I just,
it's-
there's
yeah.
so much misinformation flying around. I just
Right.
wanted to clarify before I decided to respond because I'm like, what?
Mhm. Yeah,
And because it was this thing that just sort of sat there, nobody commented on it. It was just sitting there. And I thought,
right.
what's this all
Right.
about? Okay. Thank you, Kate, for all your responses, by the way.
Brian, thank you, everyone. I appreciate you more than I can say.
All right.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
I have one other question for the meeting minutes,
Sure.
because it seems weird for me to just put, it seems out of context. Libraries in violation of OSHA regulations. Marianne came up with a plan to bring water to the building. That's not,
Sent to the
No,
building
you can
committee.
just say Mary Ann raised these concerns with the town buildings committee.
Yeah.
okay. Because out of context, that sounds like problem
Right.
Yeah,
solved.
discussion
But
of
I
it's
just
working
figured it'd be
conditions.
easier for me to bring it up here rather than email Marianne about this thing that I was like wondering what that was, that one statement just sitting up there. Okay.
Yeah.
Brought your concerns to who?
The town buildings committee.
Okay.
here I am asking people to walk across the street to use the bathroom and wash their hands. And so, it's,
Yeah, it's not right. It hasn't been right for years. Yeah.
Yeah. right,
Yeah. Yeah. And especially during a time of the pandemic.
right,
And not just your employees, but yourself, Marianne.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I mean, we were fine until we had a complaint, and then the complaint just brought me someplace I didn't know I was gonna go. I didn't know. So, I mean, and so we're, so we don't have an ADA issue with not being able to provide a bathroom. We have other ADA issues, and,
Yeah.
and we're certainly trying to do something about that.
Yeah. By building a new building.
Right.
Well, everybody, it's getting late. Thank you, everyone. Let's
Thank you,
try to be. I
Michelle.
know it is depressing about the number, but
Go
Positive.
onward.
Good guys, positive attitude. Believe in the town. Believe in the town to do the right thing.
well, enjoy the finance committee tomorrow night, Tim.
I have a question.
Yes. Sure.
So we have this tentative meeting scheduled for Thursday. I'm assuming that if it's needed, Marianne, you'll let us know.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said
Yeah.
earlier. If she gets some information that's really drastically different that we might want to talk about, otherwise we
Okay.
can wait till Monday, right?
That sounds
And
good.
so Marianne, you're communicating with the finance committee? Is that right? or
Yeah,
did-
I'll send them Brad's spreadsheet, and just say that, that we're gonna come tomorrow night and hear what you have to say. And then we'll tell them that we're still working on the cost estimate, but
Yeah,
that
but
we
we
have
don't
no other
expect a
news right
significant-
now. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you, everyone. See
Thanks,
ya.
Michelle. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Everybody.
Good night.